Hey everyone, welcome to my channel. Welcome to this reading for no particular reason other than I was inspired to talk about the energy we're in right now. So I did some research over the last 24 hours, not particularly looking for anything in particular. Just following the natural flow of synchronicity and where it was leading me. And just like we have a sort of like a truth detector when we are watching things or listening to things or reading things, they resonate or they don't. And so I started looking for the meaning behind one of the cards that came up in my last reading, which was the crossroads. And the description in the book doesn't talk about the goddess that it mentions, which is Hecate or Hecate. And I'm not familiar with that goddess. So I first went to YouTube, which I don't recommend, because the majority of stuff that is out there on Hecate is absolute garbage. It's very juvenile and it is really kind of low vibe. I don't know how to describe it, like Dungeons and Dragons type shit, which is really not what this channel is about. And so the only thing that I found on YouTube that was really worth listening to was a wise woman named Jean, and I'll put the link into the description for that video. But that was a really interesting introduction to this energy that came through with the energy of the sun. So it was essentially the energy of yin and yang that came through in the last reading. So this led me to look into all kinds of things, but where I ended up was Venus and this whole vibrational thing that's going on right now with Venus, because I was looking into homeopathic things about mint, peppermint. So that led me to discover that phosphorus is Venus, morning star, and Hesperus is Venus, evening star. So that's something to look into if you're curious about that. I found the whole connection really interesting. And so it essentially, people have certain personality types in relation to vibrational, the planets that, the vibration of the planets. So there's a process of transformation that she's connected in with, where it's about the expression of the heart. This Venus is about the expression of what's in the heart, and depending on where your consciousness is, this Venus vibration is going to be either you making choices of things that are pure and beautiful to you according to your consciousness, or choices that are beautiful to you according to your lack of consciousness. So this brings in this whole transformational process and Wheel of Fortune energy of what comes next in life, what is in my surroundings, according to the choices that I'm making, based on what is in my heart. Is my heart closed off? Am I not loving myself? Am I reaching for things that are low vibrational stuff, superficial? Am I just wanting to be attractive? Am I just wanting to have nice things in my life? Or do I want more? Do I want people to see the beauty within me, my purity and essence? So a lot of people are going through this transformation process of value. What do they find beautiful? And there's a lot of feminine, deep wisdom that is coming to the surface through this eclipse. So if you have the personality of Phosphorus, which is connected in with Venus morning star, what this is you carry a light. So this would be light workers, people who are inspirational in some way, and they have a purity, a genuine desire for deep beauty, and these light workers, light bearers, are wounded healers, and they have gone through a path of suffering in order to go through transformation. And so what happens when this transformation happens, when the light bearer liberates themselves? Basically, these 12 realms or houses of the zodiac ascend their structure through the expression of Venus, the light, the beauty, etc., into Earth's energy grid. And that's why human experience is essential and necessary for this world and this Earth plane to evolve into something, evolve into its potential. So Venus, which is all about art and beauty and the expression of that, when the light bearer liberates themselves so that they are expressing this art in a way that is coming from a deep place of heart expression, their heart chakra, expression of the heart through physical experience, human experience. These 12 archetypes or realms, 12 human psyche realms evolve. The structure changes, the energy changes, and this light goes into the Earth's grid, the Earth's energy grid. So when all our chakras are liberated, unbound, a person basically radiates their light into the Earth's grid, which creates that deep connection that I was talking about to the Earth. And so from Aries to Pisces, we have this process of transcendence through each realm. From my understanding of my mystic view of astrology intuitively, and just the human experience and psyche, is that from Aries to Pisces is a process of transcendence through each realm to then ultimately sacrifice self-centered expression and desires and needs for unity and oneness with everyone, with all, and for the good of all, which then births the cosmic self. So the cosmic self it's everything that you always were, but free to basically express this Venus energy through the things that you create that are beautiful in the world. But we have this duality of like superficial beauty and then deep, raw kind of beauty. So a lot of people gravitate when they are not in touch, they have not birthed the cosmic self, they gravitate towards making choices that magnetize them to superficial, lower vibrational beauty. The people who would like to make a lot of money want you to stay self-centered, want you to keep thinking about what else do you need, want you to be obsessed with how you look, want you to be obsessed with the possessions that you have and the kind of place that you live. Don't want you to be creative and use second-hand things or find your own cuttings of plants and create little gardens for yourself. Don't want you to be innovative and use your brain at all, because that doesn't make them any money. So getting back to what I found about this ancient Greek goddess myth of Hecate. So there's also Hecate, which is Egyptian goddess of fertility, which are just different cultures, same thing. When Persephone emerged from the underworld, Hecate followed her and was always with her. So this is the inner wisdom. Hecate is the inner wisdom, the part of us that can make wise choices in life after having been through suffering. Because this being dragged down into the underworld myth is the things that happen to us, the things that we have to suffer through against our will. The accidents that happen, the trauma that we so-called never asked for, but on a soul level we did. And so we get dragged into the underworld as naive humans. And we go through all kinds of suffering. And then we emerge from that underworld with wisdom. So we go through a transformation and we emerge back up into some kind of higher consciousness. And we have all this wisdom that we then take with us for the rest of the journey. And so we have choices after that of where we want to dive and delve into once we gain this transformative higher consciousness and understand the lessons in the suffering and the purpose of it. So there is a threshold. There's a threshold that we are faced with every time we come into some kind of chaos or faced with something that's potentially challenging or is challenging. We're stepping into a threshold, and within that threshold we have wisdom because we've been through the suffering. And as light bearers, you now have the wisdom after being wounded yourself and going through a self-healing process and going through the different initiations of all of the 12. And I'm not saying you go through all of them in one life, but all of the 12 realms of human psyche, from Aries to Pisces. And so you have we step into a threshold when we're faced with problems or challenges, and with this wisdom, which is called Hecate, or was called Hecate in ancient Greek and ancient Egypt, Hecate. And there's other names with different texts and things like that. But this threshold is where you make choices with intuition and the wisdom. and then you take the action. So this goddess of fertility, goddess of witchcraft, goddess of life, death, rebirth, it is the feminine. It is the things that have been suppressed, oppressed, the things that want to come to the surface. And the procession that's taking place now, I feel, is a call for restoration and protection of that wisdom. So when I say witchcraft, I'm not talking about what you see on the internet. I'm talking about the threshold that you step into when you're faced with something that you know you need to take action on. And that threshold is where you then implement true witchcraft, which is what it is, a craft of woman. And so, and it's also connected in with midwives and the practice of assisting women to give birth. So all of this feminine wisdom was put into a label somewhere along the line of witchcraft. So what it really is basically we go into a threshold of space that we know that we have to take action on something, and faced with a challenge, we bring in the intuition and we pay attention to the environment, the physical body, the subtleties of the cycles, the subtleties of the energy. Tuning into that is all in the realm of intuition. And then with the wisdom of what has been, with, you know, the story of Persephone or Persephone, victimization of suffering, that knowledge and those experiences stay with the soul, and they become part of you. But the wisdom is to take the lessons and not the experience. So we use the intuition and the wisdom of all that has been, and then we make a choice. Just like yesterday when I woke up and needed to, there was just this weird kind of mysterious need to spray something. It wasn't like, oh, today I'm gonna make some stuff and I might make a spray. It was like I literally woke up and thought, I need to make a spray. And I hadn't made one for a while, and so the post is on my community tab if you want to read the synchronicity of that. But I made choices because of the intuition and the wisdom of what has been, and also the action involved in creating that spray and what it meant. This type of intuitive action is why they oppressed women, and why they labeled them as witches, and why the church wanted to push out the knowledge of women, especially within the realm of childbirth, and just the sacred knowledge that comes through being a woman. She is the breath of life in the process of creation. She represents the expression of the heart. The driving force behind her actions is to express the heart. And she represents the final stages of childbirth as well, of that push into life, the choices that you make based on the intuition and the wisdom of that of the threshold. So there was something interesting that I found, that there was a temple in Egypt in honor of Hecate, and the procession in honor of her was about invoking the restoration, like I said, the restoration and the protection of health and home. She also represents the 3 stages of the cycle of being a woman in terms of biology, which is why the menstruation thing came through. And I've even seen another person, actually 2 other people who do readings, mention it. So it's not like some imaginary thing. Women can really tune into themselves and the collective, and so can men. But when we're talking about the female cycle and how it's connected in with the cycle of the universe, we're talking about the moon eclipsing the sun, because the sun is the symbol of the self, the self-expression, and the moon is this wisdom of all that's hidden. And so there is a self-sacrifice of some kind, like in the stories. And what that sacrifice allows is for a collective dissolving process of things that are dead. They need to go. They are, I don't know how to describe it, parts of yourself that need to fully dissolve in order to restore health and harmony. It's a cycle. So that's the research that I did intuitively about this energy. So I'm going to pull a few cards as well. I have a new oracle deck that I want to share today, and also have the numerous astro deck as well, which looked interesting, so I've got that. Enchantment, the ash tree, and the dates of February 18th to March 17th. So that is Aquarius energy. And let's see what it says about this card. Magic, recovery, self-care. The ash, Fraxinus excelsior. The ash tree is associated with inspiration and imagination. Its wood is deceptively robust for such a graceful species. Strong spiritual associations can be found in the ash tree's history, with legend proclaiming that its roots reside in the molten core of the earth, while its leaves touch the heavens. The ash tree is a complex tree of opposites, of worlds within worlds, of cycles of quick growth, degeneration, and rebirth. The symbolism of the card is the priestess of enchantment. She is set beneath a wheel of ash, seed pods, leaves, and flowers. Besides her is the ash tree's spirit animal, the seahorse. For the ash has strong connections with human emotions, as deep as the ocean. The color energy of the ash is cobalt blue and is linked with the northern hemisphere's fading winter and early spring, generally between the dates of the 18th of February to the 17th of March. Keywords for the ash tree include recovery, wisdom, and understanding. Time to take a step back from the busyness of the world. The ash tree reminds us to rise above and look at the big picture. In truth, we are only here for a short time. Slow down and appreciate life. The power of reflective self-care is highlighted by this card. In this stillness, magic can begin to blossom and moments of enchantment can be found. Often the answer to a tricky problem appears when the mind has been allowed to become quiet. This quietness can be found in painting, drawing, writing poetry, or just contemplating the beauty of nature. Let's pull another one. Contemplation. Connected in with St. John's wort. Reflection, understanding, life lessons. Yep, exactly. Understanding life lessons, not taking the experience and the pain, just the lesson. St. John's wort. Hypericum perforatum. St. John's wort has been used to treat melancholy and sadness for hundreds of years. In the Middle Ages, it was used as a sedative to treat disorders of the mind. The wort of the St. John is often used in magical spells for health and happiness because its sunny yellow flowers add joyful color. It's a herb that brings calm contemplation and a glad heart. The contemplation card depicts the priestess of contemplation peacefully lost in thought. She's writing her memoirs in a book of shadows. All the wisdom of a life well lived and all the lessons that she has learned are recorded for others in moments of quiet meditation. She's surrounded by the St. John's wort plant, including the flowers and seed pod. The Scottish Gaelic words Solus Liber appear, which translate to Book of Light. The priestess is happy and content, and as she looks back and reflects on her life, she knows that she has done her best. When the priestess of contemplation appears, it represents an excellent opportunity to reflect on your life experiences and the insights you have gained from them. It signifies a time of reflection, a time to glean a deeper understanding of why you're here. This card encourages quiet moments of meditation and deep thought. So I want to read to you a reflection ritual, which is a powerful ritual that can help in understanding the rewards of challenging situations. Light 2 white candles. Take a favorite journal and press a fresh frond of St. John's wort between the pages. If you're unable to source fresh St. John's wort, use dried, and place it into a small bag and attach to your journal. In a meditative mood, write down some of the wonderful life lessons you've learned. They may have been joyful or difficult, but they have made you wiser and the person you are today. Be grateful for what you have received. These moments of quiet reflection can help us realize the gifts of difficult times. Pass the journal between the two candles and imagine the flames symbolically burning away any residual sadness or melancholy that these life lessons may have caused you. Let's pull a card from the Numinous Astro deck. The Numinous Mystery. The unknown, the unknowable, ESP, psychic abilities, the cosmos, universal truth, oneness, source, the unnameable, shadow work, inner knowing, tingling, ghosts, other worlds, space, enigmas, the occult, intuition. And it shows the amethyst with the pyramids. Let's do another one. There's so much that we don't know. There's so much that we have no idea. And there is a portal within to access knowledge. Through these psychic abilities. I think that the information that we're bombarded with is, some of it's designed to make people stay closed-minded, or they play on the fact that most of the collective is not thinking for themselves. But it's not some big conspiracy. I don't feel like that. I don't feel, and people might have obviously different opinions about it, but my feeling is that we just are lazy and neglected the feminine. We neglected the feminine yin wisdom within each of us. And the words and the thoughts and the information is all very masculine driven, of force and will and gain. But the hermits out there that like to be in their own little world, they're very familiar with the yin world of creative beauty and communication that's in the form of writing and self-expression and looking at things through an intuitive lens, having visions, learning, trusting your intuition. So now we have the 11th house, which is friendship, group, creativity, community, humanity, hope, tribe, festivals, discoveries, common goals, startups, rebellion, experimentation, the future. Be enchanted by the friendships and communities and discoveries that the sacred feminine, the yin energy of the universe wants you to see, wants you to restore in your life. Experiment with things. Friendships that you create from now on should have high frequency communication and common goals should be understanding and have a certain self-awareness. If you're going to have a deep friendship, that is, the deeper your relationship with someone, the more you're going to absorb, the more you're going to share, the more you're going to experience with that individual. So I think it's a time for contemplation of the lessons that you've learned thus far and how these relationships of the past, these friendships, these groups, communities, pockets of humanity, tribes, groups of people. What have you learnt so far about how much these groups of people bring the group up to a level of hope and inner knowing? I have a flower for you called the trumpet gentian. To get what you love, you first have to be patient with what you have. It's an unknown quote. To get what you love, you first have to be patient with what you have. So we have the Sun, Death, and the Eight of Pentacles. With the temporary transformation of the Sun, there is a focus on what is this is a transformation of the self. It's a time of the self, of the individual going through a transformation, seeing what parts of themselves are done, what parts of themselves or even groups of people, things you've been involved in, things you've hoped for, your perception, your curiosity, all things in the realm of Mercury. Explore new friendships, new creativity, new communities, have hope. Join soul tribes, make discoveries, meet people that have a common goal. A new neighbor moved in today, maybe I'll have something in common with them. Or their energy just seemed really positive. So there's lots of things that open up when we allow ourselves, just surrender to it, float around in the energy like a seahorse, and be content with what you have. Contentment with what you have, what you've learned. And the last card is the Star, back to Aquarius. So what's happening with Aquarius energy? We have been learning to do things in a different way lately, in the last few months. And I think this is leading to a whole new way of relating to people. Because we're sort of like faced with the stark reality that there's a lot of garbage out there, but there's also a lot of possible truths of things that are not that great. But there's the unknown. We're on the edge of the unknown, and there's no escaping that. It's just relating to it in a new way, relating to the unknown in a totally, completely new sense of hope, and feeling safe and secure to be creative and let go of parts of yourself that have been created by, experiences in life, things that don't serve your path purpose at the moment. And allowing yourself to be your own muse. Allowing yourself to be your own muse, to express the beauty and the creativity that is in your heart. And to love yourself for that. And what you have. Like the reading said, love, like the last reading said, what is already with you is so valuable. And it's not about just striving for change, and not about just striving to create some new status in life or status in a company. So be enchanted with yourself, how far you've come, the lessons you've learned, the things that you will learn in the next few hours, few weeks, the things that come to you in quiet space, peace, and meditation, and particularly in the quietness of creativity. This is very healing, powerful energy. This star, the Venus morning star message, she's enchanted with her own inner beauty, and she's enchanted with her own sense of hopefulness, of the journey into the unknown, and the beauty that she is willing and excited to express through her or his physical human experience. Going back to the Earth's grid, the light bearers that are becoming free and unbound are becoming like temples for humanity. And the more temples of light for humanity we have over the next 100 years, 200 years, it shifts the Earth's energy field dramatically. So now, until 100 years from now, 200 years, completely different, obviously. But it is like the unknown. This unknown, is it going to be a world for the future generations, for my grandchildren, my great-grandchildren, and so on. Is it going to be a magical place? Is it going to be peaceful? Or is it going to be destructive? All we can do is basically create beauty and art, because that is what heals. So that's the message. Sending love. Thanks for watching.